Chances are that while you're watching this video, there's probably some sort of fuse around you right now and you don't even know it. Most likely you've been around fuses your entire life from the second you were born, yet many of you don't know that much about them. As a matter of fact, most of you watching this on a phone right now are most likely holding a fuse in your hand. And just to show you, this is what a fuse in an iPhone looks like. In your computer you have them on some motherboards, and in machines that are huge you can find some of the tiniest fuses as well. This is an example of one that I have from work that is way smaller than my fingernail, about the size of a pen tip. Now I love working on electronics and equipment and can bore you to death with all sorts of stuff, but in this video we're going to cover only the fuses for your Spyder. And I'm also going to put it in 3 parts. Part 1 I'm going to cover some of the basics and information. Part 2, how to access the fuses, test and remove and replace, and Part 3 I will cover your manual information. I am sure that I'm not going to cover every single fuse, and I will be keeping this video about as basic as I can, while still trying to help everyone. I'll be showing my 2018 model Spyder whenever I show actual footage of the Spyder and the fuses, and whenever I'm talking about the manuals I'll be discussing the current 2023 models of the time of this video. If you have any questions on a different year model, please comment or email me and I'll be glad to help you. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope that you're liking Learning the Basics series so far, and appreciate the comments and support. Please remember I'm keeping the video as basic and as simple as possible. There are more technical terms, knowledge, and information than what I'll be discussing, and I know this. I just hope that this is helpful, informative, understandable, and a start to those that have no experience and want to learn about fuses. If you need more than this information, please contact or email me. I'll be glad to help if possible. Also, not knowing what you are doing when replacing fuses and improperly replacing them can cause severe damage and even fire. It is always best to have your vehicle serviced by an authorized Can Am dealer. So what is a fuse? In the simplest way I can put it, it is a device that protects things from getting electrocuted, and this does include you. Amps go on one side of the fuse, travel through it, and comes out the other end and travels to the part of the device that it protects. As long as there are no issues, the amps flow through it just fine, and when the amps become too unsafe, the fuse blows. Fuses are a one-shot use. Once it is bad, it must be replaced. They are not like a breaker in your house or a relay that can be switched or resets itself for multiple uses. It is very important that you use the right size fuse for the job. Most vehicles will have a chart, legend, or picture showing where everything goes and what size fuses you need. Part 3 of this video does cover that. What size fuse you use is very important, and to give you an example, if you have a 5 amp fuse and all of a sudden 10 amps try to go through it, the fuse blows, preventing damage to the device. If your fuse was 10 amps or higher and only needed to be 5 amps, it would not stop the extra amps and ruin your device or damage you, because that much extra current can go through when it's not needed. If you use a 2.5 amp fuse, for example, but need a 5 amp one, the small fuse will continuously blow even though nothing is wrong other than you needed a 5 amp fuse. These are some of the examples of why it is important to have a proper fuse size for what is needed, and they are the basic examples. I don't want to cover in great detail how to remove the frunk because I have covered this several times in videos, but I do realize this may be the first time you're ever watching one of my videos and might be the only time you're watching a video, so I will show it very quickly. Start by removing the 4 clips in the corner shown here. Next, simply remove the dust cover and then pull up the front container. You now have access to your battery and fuses. So I wanted to point out that they consider the left and right sides as if you were sitting on the seat riding the motorcycle. This is not backwards on my camera at all. And when I stand facing the bike, the right fuse box is on my left and the left fuse box is on my right. A little confusing. Make sure you take note of this when referencing anything in your manual. To me, this is somewhat silly they did this way because you will never be accessing your fuses from the driver's seat. But I do understand that they use this as a reference point throughout the bike, so it takes a little while to get adjusted to it. To take off the fuse cover, they should have clips that you have to squeeze or press while pulling off. There is a gasket on the main box, here it is yellow colored, that you do not want to pull off because it is there to help waterproof the box. On the inside of the lids, you will notice that there are extra fuses as well that you can use for emergencies. So now let's talk about the fuses. Again, this is my 2018 model that I'm showing, so yours may be different if it is a different year. Each box is labeled left and right so you can match it to the sticker guide at the top. On the outside of the cover is a legend showing you what fuse goes where. This is going to point out several things for you. One is that it will show the top left corner of each box what it is and what number it is in the sequence. For example, R1 means relay, and it is in spot 1. The letters mean the following. R is for relay, F is for mini blade fuse, and J is for J-case fuse. The second thing that it shows is what type of amp you need. So in this example, in the top right corner it shows 15A, so that means that it needs a 15 amp mini blade fuse when replaced. And then the third thing that is shown is what the fuse is for. I show 2 spots here to show that sometimes there is nothing used in that spot even though there is a fuse. If the spot says not used but has a fuse in it, then you can use that as an extra fuse if you need one in a pinch. The other box shows that this is a J-case fuse for the main control. Removing and inserting fuses is the simple part. Simply grab and pull straight out. Don't wiggle the fuse if you can help it because this might damage the fuse panel. For inserting, I like to use my fingers as much as possible, but if you use a puller, I do recommend pushing the last little bit of the fuse in with your fingers because you can feel it better when it stops in the panel. I do recommend that you purchase extra fuses for when you need them. I usually get a box like this that has a variety of different amps. You can find them cheap on Amazon. For the Spyder, you will need to purchase a J-case assortment and a mini blade fuse assortment. The fuses are usually color-coded and have the amp size listed on the top of the fuse or case. The mini fuses are small, and hopefully this will help give you an idea of size. Testing with a little mini fuse tester is the quickest and easy way to check, and also pulling the fuse and visually looking at them to see if they're blown is a good way as well. After you have checked everything, placing the covers back on is simple. Just listen to be sure it clicks into place when pushing it in. Now these type of testers are small, they're quick, and they're easy to use, and they're also cheap. The reason I like this one so much is if you see here, you can take this little black slider and move it to the different size fuses, from mini to the big fuses as well. And this is used for not just blade fuses, it's used for the J-case fuses as well. And here's an example of a mini blade fuse. If you see, I'm touching the tester to the small prongs and also to the top side where there are 2 metal posts. Now this is a mid-size fuse, and if you notice here, I'm touching the top part of it, and then I'm touching the post, and each time I touch it, the light turns on. Now for the J-case, sometimes it's a little bit harder to get in there, but whenever you get the right size for it, you put the 2 little posts down inside of the female terminals, and then if you touch the metals on both posts, it will light up the fuse tester. So if you're a little more tech savvy, you can use a multimeter, just set it to the ohm settings, and basically what you do is first test it to make sure it's working. You touch the 2 connectors together and it should make a beeping sound like this. And then you put it to the fuse. As long as the 2 connections are good and it's not blown, it will make a noise, just like in this video.